Hello, folks, and welcome to Political Matrix News. We are joined tonight by wonderful two partners here, Mike Bates and Scott Miller. And we have a special guest tonight, Tim Marden with the John Birch Society. Tim, how are you doing tonight?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Great. Well, more or less, I think we brought you on to ask a few questions about, do you do it with John Birch Society, and just tell a little bit of the people here about what they do and what their role is in politics nowadays and public service.
Sure. Well, the Birch Society was founded by a gentleman named Robert Welch back in 1958, and it was really built to combat the rise of, at that time, communism. It's really kind of morphed into the Democrat socialism, globalism, and all that stuff nowadays. But at the core, it's still uh, folks that are trying to undermine the country. And our job, our core mission, is really just to educate people about what's been going on and really give them the truth, give them the real history, the unfiltered history, because we're non-political or nonpartisan. We're kind of what I say is equal opportunity offenders. But once you get that education, you really got to actually put it into practice. And then we kind of couple that component with our action bulletin that every member gets every month, and that creates a concerted action nationwide to make sure that everybody's pushing on the same button at the same time, which really is what kind of moves the ball down the field. Just like a football team's got to be on the same play
Right.
and the same playbook to move the ball down the field, we kind of do the same thing with our action bulletin every month. So that's kind of a little bit of a snapshot, but maybe you got a little bit deeper question or how it
Well,
applies.
I'll tell you from my perspective. I was talking to Greg about this yesterday. Every word that I've ever heard. I mean, big surprise when you hear Democrats mention the John Birch Society. They basically mention it in the same breath they do the KKK.
Oh
But
yeah,
then again, they do that. They do that with Republicans anyway. So it
sure.
kind of becomes a meaningless criticism.
Sure. Well, that comes out of the communist playbook where you accuse people of all these different things. But what happened to Robert Welch, for instance, back in the '60s, is no different than what you saw happen to Trump over the last 8 years. It's no different what you saw to what happened to the Tea Party back in the the 19 in
Mm,
what the 2010 2015 range.
Right.
As that became a more successful movement, it got more criticism from the folks who really didn't want anybody uncovering the rocks or pointing out the skeletons in the closet. So, what you're hearing from that perspective is really just kind of hangover from that, but it's just the same old playbook, different people involved.
yeah,
Right.
same stuff, different day.
Yes, absolutely.
And so, I mean, I know y'all have a report card on different elected officials and how they're doing compared to the
Mm.
Constitution and everything. So, do y'all put that out like weekly or monthly, or how does that work?
No, great question. Actually, it's one of our most powerful tools. We've actually flipped congressional districts with that tool. It's called the Freedom Index, and
Okay.
people can get it at thefreedomindex.org, and you just put in the rep that you want to look at. We do not only all 535 members of Congress, we also do all of the states as well. So if you go to that webpage and scroll down a little bit further, you're going to see all a map of the United States. You can just click on the various states and find the reps and senators within those various states as well.
Oh, really?
Yep. So what we do is we kind of keep a historical record of their votes squared against the Constitution, and it's just a sampling. It's not a scorecard on every vote that they take, but we kind of go through and kind of match it up with our agenda, so to speak, and score it. But what Congressman Thomas Massey told us, which is what is really unique about our score, is it's completely blind. We found out from him that all the other organizations that issue these types of scorecards actually call the reps ahead of time and tell them, hey, we're going to be looking at the score or we're going to look at this vote, we're going to score it, which sort of kind of muddies the waters a little bit, but ours is completely blind, and evidently we're unique in how we do
Really?
that. Yep.
Cool. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Mike, do you have any questions? I know you used to do some and talking with some of the John Birch group and the Panhandle, didn't you?
Well, I don't really have questions about the John Birch Society because I know quite a bit about it already, and I do speak at John Birch Society meetings on a pretty regular basis. So I'll simply say this preemptively for anybody watching this thinking that the John Birch Society is just a bunch of nutcase conspiracy theorists, and that is, if you really want to know if what the John Birch Society is saying is true or not, grab issues of New American Magazine, which is their publication, from about 20 years ago, when they were predicting exactly what's going on today.
Yeah.
So you can look, past performance is no guarantee of future results. But based on that, I think you can read New American Magazine today predicting what's going to happen and have pretty high degree of confidence that it's not crazy conspiracy theory, that there's a certain element of truth to that, if not 100% true. So I have tremendous respect for what the John Birch Society does, and I hate that the left is constantly smearing it. But hey, that's what the left does to anybody who opposes them.
And
Yeah.
that for me, that's the seal of quality. If they're that vehemently against it, it's probably not a bad thing.
This is true.
No. What else media does the New American, or the John Birch Society offer? I mean, I know they have the magazine and newsletter. What else do they offer?
Well, first of all, let me thank you for the endorsement. I'll send you the $20 later after we get off the air. But
hey, that endorsement was free. I don't charge for opinions.
fair enough. The New American Magazine, you can get that at thenewamerican.com. It is our premier publication. Members get that once a month. So as a single individual member, it's $87 a year. As a couple, it's $99. You get that bulletin every month. You get the magazine every month. You get access to all the archives. But if you go to the jbs.org website, you're going to see a whole main menu it'll cascade down to a number of different issues, like our issue to get out of the United Nations, our efforts about public school. And how it's sort of arranged is you can pick a topic. Convention of States or the Constitutional Convention, Article 5 is another one. It's sort of broken down. You go to that topic and you click on it, and then you can actually get videos on the topic, PDFs on the topic. If applicable, it'll give you a resolution, kind of a blank resolution that you can give to your state reps or your federal reps and ask them to pass that. It also give you articles, so it ties the two together, the JBS website and the New American website, so you can get those articles. So it's really a toolbox for activists who want to get involved. And like you said, if you really want to know the truth, we have a pretty darn good track record of that.
Now, what's your record or your stance on the Ukraine-Russia situation?
Well, we're opposed to foreign aid in general, so that's really kind of the biggest part of what's going on in the Ukraine-Russia. I personally think that both sides are at fault here, and I think even the United States probably has some culpability here because. As we've heard, lots of different things were getting laundered through the Ukraine country, both physically and financially as well. So I think there is probably a lot of smoke there with regards to probably not just solely the Biden administration, probably goes back even further. And what's kind of interesting about the Ukraine dynamic is, in 2014, the Obama administration overthrew the Ukrainian government over there. And while a lot of people will tell you, oh, well, this whole thing just started when Russia invaded. No, that's not the start of it. What really kind of started off this latest round is when we overthrew the country over there in 2014. And you can go back. We've got data to show that there's about a 30-point shift in public opinion that our CIA was able to garner through propaganda efforts and those sorts of things. And when that election actually overthrew the Ukrainian government, that's when Russia initiated the invasion, and took back Crimea, which at the time was really kind of the playground for the rich in Russia,
Right.
but it also gave them that warm water port. So it was very important strategically with them. And the whole eastern side of Ukraine, and forgive me if you already know all this stuff, but that whole eastern end of Ukraine, the Donbass region, was actually populated or repopulated by Stalin because he starved out the Ukrainian people and killed everybody. Well, in order to go in and harvest those resources, he needed to repopulate it with Russians. And that's really where their heritage is so connected to the Russian people because by and large, a lot of them are.
Yeah, I think Putin's from Ukraine, isn't he?
That would be news to me. I don't know for sure, but it wouldn't surprise me at all.
Well, Ukraine
He's
is
reported
known
to
as
be.
Ukraine is known as the cradle of Russia. The entire Russian Empire, frankly, if you trace it back far enough, originated in Ukraine.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah. So
Actually,
you can.
if you
And
play the board
I'm
game
not
Risk,
endorsing. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
If you play the board game Risk, I mean, Ukraine is like the biggest part of the whole USSR in the board game. I mean, it's a very large geographical part of Russia, and that people do not really grasp. Again, most
Yeah,
people
well,
don't even know where Europe is on the map.
yeah, and I mean, you mix in the cultural aspect, the historical aspects, like you're talking about, and you got a real kind of recipe for disaster here
You do.
developing for sure. And I don't think it's going to get resolved anytime soon. I think the war machine loves to have conflict because they get to sell a lot of bombs and they get to sell a lot of
Yes, they
jets
do.
and they get to sell a lot of ammunition. So unfortunately, I don't see that necessarily going away because in today's modern age, war is really expensive and central banks love to give out money.
They do. I think the same thing situation flows into the Israeli Gaza situation.
100%, 100%.
So, but yeah, I mean, real quick, I know you're also the mayor of Newberry, Florida, which if nobody knows is the little town just north of Gainesville. And so, is the government shutdown affecting you guys any at all in the city's local municipality level?
I'm sure it does to some extent, but we haven't really seen anything significant. One of the great hallmarks of Newberry is that we're relatively independent and relatively self-sustaining. That kind of goes back something that we changed up about 10 years ago. I originally got elected about 13 years ago and was a city commissioner then. I'm like you said, I'm the mayor now. Got elected in April. But when I got elected, we actually got three other Birchers elected in the subsequent election, and had uh, reinforcements, I guess you could say, on the city commission. So what we really kind of did was really dug into the budget and refocused Newberry on really what government is supposed to be doing. So we have a fire station, we have water, we have wastewater, we have roads, we have a planning and zoning department, we have a recreation department. But that's pretty much all we have. We don't have all of this stuff that causes social friction among the citizenry or anything like that. And it's really, has never changed since we did that, like I said, about 10 years ago. And now it's just become kind of our brand. During COVID, for instance, we looked at our citizens and we looked at our businesses and said, look, you guys are adults, you can make the decisions that are best for you and your families, so go have at it. We're not going to do anything. And the county was trying to be real restrictive at the time, and we basically just kind of just told them, we're not going to pay attention to you anymore if you can't be more of a resource, for our people and our businesses, then we don't really want to have anything to do with you. We'll just kind of follow the governor. He's got the best assets at his disposal to make good, educated decisions, and we just kind of went on our merry way. And it was kind of rewarding, I guess, because you could see people from blue Gainesville coming over to our restaurants, to our grocery stores, and
Right.
doing, trying to still do life at that time. So we fared perfectly well. I didn't, there was nothing of consequence there. In fact, I remember tweeting out like really early on with COVID, or it was Corona at the time. If you remember, it was coronavirus.
Right.
I remember tweeting out, "Does coronavirus go better with lemon or lime?" I could just see the writing on the wall. I knew it was. I
Oh
knew
my
it was just a
gosh.
total. I knew it was just a total joke. But we at the New American have written a lot about that as well. In fact, our most recent issue is called COVID Carnage, and
Oh
people can go
really?
to the website and check that out. Yeah, and just kind of see all the downstream effects. We've got a lot of data, charts, etc., there that people can check out.
Exactly. I mean, you're up against a big mountain over there in Alachua County. I mean, I just lived there for the last 2 years, and it is horrible. The polarization and and in my opinion, the total fraud on the election uh, level.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of smoke in that organization too, the supervisor of elections office. I know you and I have talked offline over the last couple of years that the numbers just don't add up. And I've run data sets and queries and just all sorts of inquiries, and you never get the same answer twice. You contact the office, you never get a straight answer if you get an answer at all. And
Right.
unfortunately, this latest judges ruling with regards to the single member districts that was passed being overturned, that's really going to put us behind the eight ball from a county perspective. But I have
Well,
faith and hope,
hey,
and Alachua County
I'm
is
just,
not going to look the same way it does now in 5 or 10 years because we've got 1,500 or so people moving to Florida every day, and the landscape is going to change. We have better solutions we've getting better results, and we just all stems from better policy decisions. So those things become very attractive. Newberry is exploding right now because we're kind of a victim of our own creation to a certain extent, and I see some of that will eventually kind of filter up, I guess, to Alachua County. But we're one of the last safe havens for the liberals and the commies and the Marxists. So they just need to be looking out for us because we're coming at them.
Yeah, now go ahead and update us on what the judge said about the single member districts in Alachua County.
Okay. So we're going to go back, I guess, 2 election cycles. The single member districts was put on the ballot. And what it did is it spoke to just people in geographical area electing their county commissioner. So we have 5 county commissioners in Alachua. So geographically, only that section got to vote on their commissioner. Before that, it was at large. I'm sure you guys kind of understand that language. But the county, because they didn't like it, they challenged it and they put some language on the ballot and basically overturned it. Well, over the last couple of years, it's been kind of tied up in the courts. And what the judge recently said was, no, the county language was fine because it really doesn't speak to the statutes. And because that vote actually passed, we're going to go back to at-large voting in Alachua County. That's probably the simplest way to put it.
Yeah.
And when you look at across the county, this at-large voting is very problematic because the number of votes are in the city of Gainesville, which is home to the University of Florida. So it has a very high concentration of left-leaning voters, and they really have a thumb on the scale that the rural part of the county just can't overcome mathematically. So so goes Gainesville, goes the county. But what is kind of interesting is all of the perimeter cities, we kind of affectionately refer to it as the donut of the county, is relatively conservative. Most of those city commissioners are conservative that sit on those boards as well. So, the city has about 27% of your tax bill. So, we control what we can control and do what we can on the county level for the other things.
And what's interesting though with the university is that the majority, you have a very large majority of NPA voters who actually, almost outnumber the Democrat voters at the university. So I mean, the hardest part with NPA is that you have no idea which way they're going to go.
Yeah, I've seen statistics both ways that they do lean left, but it's hard for me to have a wholesale opinion of that carte blanche because I also think that there's a lot of probably conservatives, constitutionalists, libertarian, Republicans that are in that batch. They just don't want it on the record because they know how some of these left-leaning people can really behave poorly and take it out on you in other ways. So they're really just kind of hiding their affiliation in the NPA camp. That's just my opinion. I don't necessarily,
Yeah.
and completely anecdotal myself, but I think in the last election it was the highest turnout we had in Alachua County. 84% of the registered voters turned out. I think we had turnout of 88% of the Republican registered voters turn out. So it'll be interesting to see what, if we can keep up that pace moving forward. Trump's not going to be on the ballot next go around, et cetera. These things, you guys have seen it long enough. It kind of comes and goes. It's sort of like a
It
wave.
is.
Yeah.
Well, something Greg and I had talked about a while back was that someone just really needs to get involved in some litigation with the supervisor of elections office, probably in federal court, so that you can have better, less local people getting into it. And the reason that you want to get into it is less about winning the case and more about compelling them to go through the process of discovery, where you can compel them through the court to deliver records to you. And,
Oh, yeah.
and that may be what it takes to get an actual complete record.
Yeah,
Right.
no, I think that's a great point, and I think there's probably a lot there to be discovered just based on the access that we do have and that we are able to pull through FOIA requests and those sorts of things. But if somebody came forward, and had a $500,000 check they could put on my desk, that's a race I'm willing to run for sure because. All indications to me are that there is a lot of problems there, just in the fact of, maybe maybe it's clean, maybe it's right, but there's enough evidence to just suggest that the whole operation is just uh, faulty. It doesn't work when you can't get a straight answer out of the supervisor of elections. When I physically get an email that says, "Well, I know it's not clear." Dot dot. You got to think back.
But
Isn't that the point? Isn't that the point? It's just data. Isn't that the point? It's supposed to be clear. So,
yeah,
the whole thing's problematic.
I mean, I think we looked at the results of the county to county changes, where basically allows, and that's one thing people don't realize about Florida elections. Anybody watching here, this is a little bit of Florida election inside baseball, is that here in Florida you can change as long as you're a registered voter in Florida, you can just go to a different county and register to vote there and just update your data. But you have to do it the right way, and it has to be done in a provisional ballot way. Otherwise, some counties, as SOE, might just overlook that and forget to call it a provisional ballot, like the case in Alachua County and maybe a few other Democratic counties, where they forget, and once a ballot is put in that blind box, it's there and it's lost, it's gone. It's a private vote, and there's no way of getting it back.
Right. I know in the last election when we looked at the data, there was somewhere around 10,000 folks who did these county to county transfers. Well, if you do the math, there's not enough physical hours in the day to process 10,000 county to county transfers. And that was one of the big arguments that we had with the supervisor of elections office this last go around. And, magically it was, oh, well, there's only about 7,700. The other 3,000 were within the county. It's always something. It's always some whatever kind of excuse. And a lot of times, and you guys have probably run across this, you ask a question and they provide an answer, but it's not an answer to the question you asked.
Right.
And they're truthful in that answer, but that's not what you asked to begin with. And you kind of go around and around with this. It's like chasing your tail.
It is.
And I think that's just part of the game. It's just part of how they operate.
Well, the weirdest part about how they operate is that the provisional ballots that were listed were only less than 100. And so none of those 10,000 were provisional ballots or identified as provisional ballots. And they're basically 9,900 and some odd short.
Yeah.
On properly categorizing them.
So, kind of, Tim, you were, I think, being extremely kind and not saying what Greg and I believe is that office in particular is rotten to the core. And frankly, if we could just get a truthful answer out of these people and expose the process by which this is accomplished, then I think it'd be the tipping point that just kind of make, there's all sorts of things that were over the last 4 years that have been characterized as conspiracy theories. And this would be the first step in turning it into a conspiracy fact.
Sure. So, and we actually took a lot of, I'm sorry, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Tim, has the governor's election integrity task force ever looked into the SOE in Alachua County?
I think you're in my head. Actually, that's exactly what I was going to say. We recently had a roundtable with the representative from that office, and we gave them just a boatload of data to start looking into this. And it's government, right? It never moves as fast as you like it to. It's not the speedboat. It's more like the Titanic. And as soon as something else more, glamorous pops up, it sort of takes their attention off. So it's really incumbent upon us to keep at it and make sure we keep inquiring about it. But yes, to answer your question, we turned over a ton of data to the Secretary's office just not too long ago, actually.
Because the Governor DeSantis would love to have a big victory with his elections integrity task force. So far, it has not been all that exciting. And if this is really as bad as you believe, that task force can have the power to dig it up and prove it. And that would be a big victory for the governor. And he would love to have that.
For sure. And we were really hoping that it would be. We were hoping we'd just turn it over and it would be like, have this epiphany. It's just not played out that way at the moment. We're still hopeful that it actually will. And going back to what you were saying, Scott, about how it's just sort of rotten to the core, I'm not saying you're wrong by any stretch of the imagination, but I still have to try and get along with these people, and I still got
No,
to
yeah,
live
yeah,
here.
yeah,
So.
yeah. No, like I said, in my opinion, you are being kind, but I mean, maybe you're portraying it in the way that you see it, and that's fine. But when even with the governor's task force, I mean, my experience with government like that, especially that if you're even a little bit off of the mission that they want to focus on right now, you go to the back of the line. The way that you got to
That's
move
right.
this issue to the front of the line is through that litigation, because that civil litigation is public. And so we can just sit there and continually release data, data point after data point out, as we receive them. And after a while, if we promote it as an actual thing, then the governor task force has no choice but
Exactly.
to start turning that into the focus of their stuff, because we've done all the heavy lifting for them.
Yeah, we haven't really found the perfect key to unlock that padlock, but
Oh,
we've
it's
been.
only money.
Yeah,
It's only money. I
yeah, probably.
promise you, I promise you, I can find a legit thing to file a civil lawsuit against that will take them. You know, we, they're not going to get it dismissed in summary judgment. It's going. We're going to go through discovery, and if we pull the right judge, we'll go through discovery, and that's the moment of victory for us. The ultimate victory is having the judge rule in our favor. But even without the ruling in our favor, we'll get enough evidence to where someone else can pick up the torch, like the governor, and we'll have something to push them with.
Right.
Well, even the court of public opinion can be pretty damning
Or can
nowadays,
be.
and this this office, it's almost like the we used to say about the Clintons, they're like Teflon, everything slid right off of them, right? It's very similar here. Not too long ago, a couple of years ago, during COVID, they had a member from their office that went to the jail and actually was registering people who turned out to be felons. The felons got prosecuted, but nothing happened to the supervisor of elections office at
Mm-hmm.
all. So that can be very frustrating. Unfortunately, it's not frustrating enough for voters, despite how many times you tell them, because at the end of the day, I think there's just too many of them that are feeding off the machine and they can't pull their head out of the trough.
From my experience, the problem is that the supervisor of elections are afraid to set precedents that they may suffer against at some point themselves. So because I've spoken to SOEs that are Republican, that are members of the local RECs. And still they're like, regardless of what I show them, they're like, I don't know, I don't
Exactly.
know.
Oh yeah,
I
there's
think
people on both sides of the aisle that have no backbone for some of this stuff, and I don't know
right.
if it's just not sexy enough, or like you said, if it doesn't fit their agenda at the time, it goes to the back of the line, and let's face it, politics was never meant to be a full-time job for a citizen to have to keep track of, for crying out loud. And today it's like drinking out of a fire hydrant.
Right.
The more rocks you turn over, you find out, oh gosh, there's even more rocks here that I didn't know. It's kind of like just endless. It's just endless. And I find that very similar to anything that I check out with regards to the elections office over here, or the school board, for instance. It's just never ending, and it's hard. It's hard to communicate to folks in a soundbite how bad some of this stuff really.
Exactly.
Uh,
Think I lost.
Sorry, I had a call coming in.
How's it going? Hey, but real quick, you're also the Alachua County is also the home of the school board member that was celebrating Hulk or the Hulk Hogan
Charlie
died,
Kirk.
right?
Hulk Hogan,
Hulk
Hogan,
Hogan,
yes.
Oh, that's a whole. How much time you got?
Go ahead.
Yeah, that was
That
the
was actually a national
chair.
news story. Yeah.
Yeah, we blew that up. We had about six or 700,000 views on our Facebook page over different posts regarding that. So the backstory there: Hulk Hogan passes away. The chair of the Alachua County School Board posts, "Good, one less MAGA." Which we took that and ran with it politically, right? But what's even weirder is the vice chair just a few weeks ago had something disparaging to say about Charlie Kirk, and she just said he was an uneducated white guy. So we've really kind of gravitated and grabbed a hold of that as well. I've personally had conversations with the Commissioner of Education here, Stasi Kamutsas, in Tallahassee. In fact, coming up on November 13th, that vice chair has to go to the state school board and defend those comments that she made about Charlie Kirk. And I really hope that the commissioner has been kind of laying the groundwork to be able to recommend to his board that she be removed from office, and that the governor comes in there after that and does actually remove her. I've already gotten one school board member over here in Alachua County removed. I'm happy to do it a second time.
Well, we definitely wish you luck in that endeavor. Not that I wish for bad things to happen to people, but when they bring it upon themselves, through really horrific things, ways and things that they treat other people, then those are consequences. That's not me wishing for like an anvil to fall on their head. It's the direct consequences of what they're doing.
Well, yeah, I mean, they're completely unforced errors. There's no reason why neither of them had to say anything like that at all. But I think it's a window into their comfort level here in Alachua County, that they
Right.
just feel like they can say stuff like this and not have any consequences. Well, I hate to tell them, but there's a lot of good, well-meaning people in Alachua County who are paying attention to everything that they're doing, and they send me texts, they send me the phone calls, they send me the screenshots, and a lot of them actually come from the staff within Kirby Smith, which is the administrative office down there. And I just see the wholesale chaos that they have created within the school system, that ultimately does nothing for our kids, which is really what the focus is supposed to be about.
Thank you so much, Tim, here for joining us tonight. And just let everybody know how they can find out more about the John Birch Society.
Sure, they can go to the jbs.org. Our news channel is thenewamerican.com. And if you want to check out our Freedom Index scorecard on congressional and state reps, just head over to thefreedomindex.org as well.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. It's very easy to sign up, because while we were talking, I signed up.
Hey, thank you very much. Oh, that's awesome.
Very good. Well, you have a good evening, Tim, and we'll catch up with you here next time.
All right, sounds good.